Good morning. You're listening to Drinking Socially, the official Untappd podcast.
Your weekly look into what's happening in the Untappd community and the world of beer.
This episode is brought to you by Untappd and the Untappd merch store. Use the coupon code PODCAST to get 20% off of your next purchase. And while you're listening, like us, seriously, like us if you do. Like us on the internet, subscribe to us on the internet, and pay attention to the interview coming up because we've got some great social media handles that you guys should pay attention to in a moment. But Harrison, what's going on this episode?
Well, today we're getting hoppy with it. I can't believe haven't used that as an intro yet. Maybe I have. I don't remember. This episode is about all things El Dorado, the tropical hop, or should I say all Dorado? Wink, wink. You'll know more in a moment. But we are so excited to have some serious hop masters. That would be Shelley and Eric from CLS Farms and a brewing wizard, Alex from Three Weavers Brewing, of course, waiting in the wings to join us shortly to break down what makes the El Dorado hop so great, different, and exciting. I remember the first time I had El Dorado in the perfectly named Dorado double IPA from Ballast Point. It was actually Christmas Eve, 2014. Thanks, Untappd, for reminding me. My check-in was a perfect 5-bottle caps, and it just said hop mashing madness, referring to the addition of hops in the mash of that beer. As an early professional brewer, that kind of blew my mind that somebody was hop mashing. Today we'll be enjoying a beer that Alex actually brewed for Three Weavers, all Dorado, which, as you may guess by the name, is a single hop IPA featuring El Dorado. And I mean, this hop is everywhere, as we'll learn more about in a minute, but it's really been skyrocketing in popularity over the past couple of years. So even if you aren't lucky enough to be able to grab some El Dorado yourself, chances are a beer featuring El Dorado is only a quick Untappd search away. Since this hop is being used by so many brewers right now, it's going to be also a great episode to highlight the Brewery Pioneer badge, too. I wonder how many levels I could hit just by drinking beers from different breweries that all featured El Dorado hops. It sounds like I've got another hop-forward weekend adventure in front of me. And really, it can start tonight, right now, with this beer we're going to drink in a couple of minutes. So join us as we walk down the road to El Dorado in search not of gold, but leafy green treasure instead. No back-supporting insoles or smelly mule required. Right, John?
And also not the type of leafy green treasure that got you in trouble during your college years.
It's not trouble.
This is a hoppier. Exactly. And the badge we want you to focus on for this episode is Untappd's Brewery Pioneer, which effectively celebrates how many different breweries you've sampled in your Untappd career journey. The badge will let you know when you've unlocked it, right? There's beer in them thar hills. Whoever writes the badges for Untappd is a dad for sure. You're setting off on a journey through the world of beer, but be sure to take some time to get to know each brewery as you go. The way you earn this badge is that you've drank 5 beers from 5 different breweries. And then when you go to 10 different breweries, you'll be leveling this badge up. So El Dorado is a great journey to go down this. I mean, if you're following the El Dorado hop, you can drink from a variety of different brewers along the way. We're fortunate enough to have Alex actually talk to us about brewing with this hop today. Anything I'm forgetting, Harrison?
Yeah, all these awesome guests we have just hanging out, ready to drink some beer. So I'm now very excited to welcome to Drinking Socially, Shelley and Eric Desmarais from CLS Farms and Alexandra Nowell from Three Weavers Brewing. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hey, everybody. Everybody.
Yeah, so excited to have you guys here. It's going to be a blast. So let's do the most important thing we do here, which is open a beer and say cheers and start drinking it. So let's do that.
All right.
I'm sure it sounds like, oh, here we go. This is my favorite part. A lot of people like the can noise. We get a lot of compliments about the can open was too quiet or whatever. So that was great.
We package our beer on a high-speed German canning line, so that crack is always going to be nice off of our plants. Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. And
if you're not watching on YouTube, Alex, Eric, and Shelley doing a great job of showing. This can is beautiful. Do you guys do your own? I'm stealing the interview and I'm just running all over it now. We have to talk about the beer. Usually Harrison and I will tell you about the beer, but we have the person responsible for it on the show with us today. So I'm going to ask Alex, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about Dorado. What inspired it? How'd you come up with the name? That's a layup maybe, but I'll let you take it away from there.
Okay. So Dorado really came out of the fact that I've been brewing with Dorado for over a decade and I've never made a single hop beer with it. Ever. Wow. Ever. It's in a lot of my staples, but it's never been like the number one focus of the beer. So I felt like it was about time. Talking to Shelley about it. She's like, yes, it's about time. Let's loop in Yak and Valley hops for this. But so what you have is an IPA. It's single hop, single malt. We use multiple different types of Dorado in it, though. So your standard T90 hop pellet, Lupamax, which is a slightly more concentrated selected pellet. And then we also used whole hop in both the Whirlpool, and then we conditioned the finished bright beer on whole hop cones in the bright tank. So it's got 3 different forms of Dorado that come into play during 3 different parts of the process.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like I've already learned more than I knew when we started this journey.
Well, like the idea when doing beers like this, and I feel like when evaluating any hop for what it can best do, I say just go big on it. And we went really ridiculous in terms of the quantity of everything that went into it because we could. And 2, I think it's just really the best way to find the edges, right? You have to find the edges of what something can do. And the best way to do it is to overdo it.
Right. I love
Cheers
it.
To that.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things too is, the name you kind of go, okay, well, it's a single hop Dorado beer, but really within that, Dorado, it's in all forms. Every form, every kind of form of Dorado we could come up with to be brewed with it. So it's kind of a unique, I don't think there's very many beers that are single hop beers where every processed form of it is in the beer. So that was a unique play on it as well. So.
Yeah, and obviously today we're sitting in a time when you can write hops. They used to be whole cone hops, and then they were pelletized. And now you have Lupamax, Cryo. There's so many concentrate different ways to enjoy this amazing thing, this gift that hops are to the world. So that's a great point. That now you couldn't make this beer 10 years ago because a lot of these hops and the way these hops are presented just didn't exist yet. So. What a time to be alive. This is amazing. Woo. And it is it's one of those hops that, from my experience, like I said, I remember that night drinking Dorado from Ballast Point and being like, holy cow, this is one of those hops that's so versatile, bittering, flavor, aroma. It does everything too, right? So even that Dorado, this is a hop that can do it all. And you're really celebrating that here.
We use it for bittering too. Yeah, we definitely use it for bittering in this one as well. And what's really, so I'm incredibly familiar with this hop, right? I know it back and front. And the one thing that surprised me though, is we pulled out some new sensory notes out of this beer. And I can't really pinpoint exactly what point of the process it came from because we use so many different things. But there's this Concord grape and berry character that we get in sensory on this beer that is something I've personally never pulled out of an Dorado beer in the past. So it could have just been the fact that there was over 4 pounds per barrel in the dry hop. I don't know. It's ridiculous. But, actually, that's not ridiculous anymore. True, I have friends who dry hop at 7 pounds per barrel, but for me, it's pretty egregious to do 4 pounds.
It's a lot of that's dropping the hops out of that beer is. I don't have that.
Terrible.
That's right. Where's the beer?
It was really terrible. Right. Yeah.
Right. This hop coming like a racking arm.
Yeah, 7 plus.
Yeah, 7 plus. 7 pounds a barrel of hops. Hop growers, we like that.
Yeah, Eric and Shelley, is the guys that produce this hop. Have you thought about maybe starting a campaign to do like the first 10 pounds per barrel? And
Who can do it?
Like you get a hat, or I give you like a new t-shirt.
Sweet
Like,
hat. My weird.
yeah, or like when you go out and eat a big steak, you get like a t-shirt, right?
There you go. I like it. See, there you go. We won't hold you to it, but I like this. I like where we're going, and hopheads, I'm sure, listening do as well. So, all right. So this beer is amazing. I'm loving that we're celebrating the El Dorado hop and really in all its forms. But as a history buff and a beer nerd, I would love to know kind of where this journey began. So we have this amazing hop. We're drinking it today. But for Shelley and Eric, can you take me kind of the beginning, how this all started, the kind of the origin of CLS Farms and how we got to where we are today?
Yeah, for sure. So our family is a fourth generation hop grower in the Yakima Valley. So there was a pod of French Canadians that came from Quebec in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and settled in the Yakima Valley, and my family was part of that, and so definitely had some history there, and it's tough becoming a hop grower. I mean, it's just tough to get into the market in a situation. The Yakima Valley is the best area to grow hops in the world. And that's not because we're necessarily the smartest, but we have special climatic conditions here, and we're really far north. And so we have certain advantages here that allow us to excel at what we do. So, I went to college and got a degree in ag econ and wanted to be a hop grower. I met Shelley soon after college, and
I had a degree in public relations and marketing.
Okay.
And
so we
worked together after that.
Yeah, we connected, and CLS was born in the mid '90s. Together, me and Shelley started, 1996, I believe, and we're primarily alpha growers back then. There was really craft decent and not really much, and it was not the easiest thing being a hop grower in the mid '90s to mid 2000s, and we struggled and we persevered, and we had El Dorado, or we had this variety for quite some time, and the early 2000s, we were more pegging it to maybe be an alpha variety. It has really great alpha acids. It has decent high yield characteristics, but it just didn't quite meet. The alpha side of the hop game is all about pounds per acre of hops and alpha level, and you multiply those together to get pounds of alpha per acre. And they just didn't quite have enough pounds of alpha per acre to compete at that level. But with craft, about 2000, we were early in the craft side on CLS with hops. I mean, we were planting lots of Centennial in 2008, 9, and 10, and so we kind of had the variety and wasn't named or anything yet. And so we sent it down with Brewer Supply Group down to GABF in 2010 and unnamed. And so it was just down there and came back, and it just had all kinds of reviews. At that point, I will say that we were still young in our sensory abilities.
Yeah, definitely our hop knowledge at that point.
So we didn't quite know, what we had or what, but there was some really positive feedback. And so it became pretty clear pretty fast that we needed to name it, release it, get moving down the train, which we did. And, really it just, boom, just kind of took right off. I mean, Alex, was maybe a year late. I mean, it got into some of the right hands pretty quickly.
Right.
And, it just took right off. And so as we've got, as our sensory in-house has gotten better and our abilities to manage things, we can definitely, it does present as a very unique aroma hop, and it has special characteristics that aren't in other hops. And so it provides a nice balance to other varieties. So that's kind of how it got going. I mean, it hit any new variety, especially at that point, they're all successful to a degree because everybody wants to try them. And so El Dorado took right off. It took a little bit for brewers how to learn to get it in their long-term beers, year-round beers. But it found its way into some year-round beers pretty quick, and turned out well, and it got us launched off on the right foot, so we could get to the gin, and off we went. So
I would say well is probably an understatement, but I appreciate you being humble. I'm gonna steal the spotlight from Harrison, but I want to ask you guys a question. It's just I drink beer. It tastes great, and I love that it's like a hobby for me as an old guy that doesn't require much running. So at this point in the interview, both Alex and Eric and Shelley have kind of talked about the sensory part of the hop. For a casual observer, I'm just imagining like, oh, it's 3:00, time for sensory test. Let's drink a bunch of beer and write notes. What is it? I want to start this question with Alex and just ask, for a sensory panel, you said on this beer, you'd done so much El Dorado that you were discovering Concord. What's it usually like to run a sensory panel for a beer or a hop? Are there specific qualifications for everyone listening who wants to apply for a job now?
To drink beer, yeah.
Well, okay, so the first place to start is to standardize the nomenclature that you use so that we all kind of use similar terms, and so that my brewers are trained and all talk in the same terms of when they're doing stuff like that, right, aromatically. So for a beer like El Dorado, we use El Dorado a lot, so we understand we're looking for a lot of the pineapple characteristics, but you try and step into it kind of a blind sense, so you're not, you kind of know what you're expecting, but not really, just almost pretend like you're drinking the beer for the first time. It helps to have some training to understand what you're actually pulling out aromatically. So I've seen a lot of training done with like the actual fruit. Mm-hmm. Right? So you can smell a papaya, you can smell a banana, you can smell a pineapple and get an idea of what's being pulled out of the beer. But we use really cool software here called Draft Lab, and it ensures that our sensory is uniform across the board, depending on the type of test that we're taking. We do descriptive tests, true to brand testing, right? Because we're constantly trying beers at 1, 3, 5 months, cold, warm stored, whatever, just to make sure that they're aging the way that they need to. But yeah, when it came to El Dorado, I was very specific on the fact that like we are evaluating this hop and how much it can do in the beer. I was like, so you need to search for more than what you're typically looking for in an El Dorado beer. And that's where we started pulling out the berry and the grape.
And then on the hop growing side, Eric and Shelley, as you guys have been doing it you started when you're young, so it definitely in your mid to late 20s by this point. What sort of things are you guys doing on the growing side to kind of measure the hops for sensory things? Yeah. Sorry for lack of nomenclature.
Yeah. Well, it required us at CLS to kind of really, as hop growers, we weren't really trained in sensory. We just delivered alpha hops. They went in and, and even kind of pre-craft beer boom here, even before this, craft beer was, a thing in the mid 90s to mid 2000s, but there just wasn't maybe as much emphasis on sensory and some of that stuff. So it required us to get our own game up to speed, so to speak. And so, so we spend a lot of time with El Dorado. Almost every lot of El Dorado that's produced in the United States, we do sensory on ourselves internally. And it took us a while to feel like we got up to speed. We worked with Alex was really instrumental in this, and a few other large craft brewers as well. Tom Nielsen at Sierra Nevada. Mm-hmm. As well as working on modifying the harvest window a little bit to get to these aromas that were really meaningful. And we learned, Alex talks about pushing the boundaries, and we learned how to push the boundaries from a growing standpoint on this variety. And so we got to places where early in its maturity zone, you get a lot of the pear and watermelon side of it, then later in it, when you kind of get into that ridiculous zone of maturity, what we would call is you start getting that tropical especially hard candy, cherry, those kind of aromas. And Alex was always instrumental in pushing us down that road. And so we've actually modified its harvest window since its inception to get more into that zone. And one of the things that you can always, for me, maybe it's because I was a kid and the cereal was popular as a kid, is Trix.
Yeah.
And when you get a single hop El Dorado, you should get Trix out of it. And that's, I mean, I don't know if that resonates with everybody, but for me,
with whole milk.
Yeah.
Whole milk.
Smart.
Whole milk. Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
That's whole milk. But it's the milk at the bottom, right?
That's it.
Oh, yep.
Yep. That's where the magic happens. My brother used to put chocolate milk in his Trix because he's a crazy person. But so not that. Don't do that. Whole milk.
Maybe heavy cream. Sure. You only live once.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that.
We worked hard with we have 23 licensed growers now, and we've worked really hard with them on harvest window and where we want it. And a lot of people would say we're crazy harvesting it out where we do, but we've learned. I got to say, one of the most wonderful things about craft brewers is they give license to us growers to go into weird and crazy places.
Right.
And so we're out harvesting this hop in a window that we think is absolutely crazy, but it never, I don't want to say it never goes onion garlic, but it's almost rare. Yes, it's rare. And so it gives you license as a grower and a brewer to go take all these chances with it that maybe other varieties wouldn't. And so, those are some great things. Shelley and people within our organization work really hard. We have a very sophisticated grower guide that goes out to every grower, and it gives them very specific growing metrics, when to harvest, and so we're doing things with El Dorado that would make other people maybe cringe a little bit on harvest window. We want a little bit of color in the harvest because that means it's ripe. And and we were conditioned for so many years to pick these pearl green hops.
Right. Pearl
green hops are flat and boring, but hops with a little color have a little bit of zing to them. So
love it.
Things like that. I mean, I feel really confident saying that we are at the forefront as growers, not only in El Dorado, but all varieties, of really learning where the picking windows are and how to adjust those to really create change for brewers. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that kind of leads me to something I discovered on one of the websites you guys have, eldoradohops.com, talking about Flavor Edge, your quality assurance program. Can you guys talk a little more about that, kind of how that works, why that's important? Yeah.
Those are just all the requirements that we have in order to ensure quality, consistency all through the supply chain, so that when we deliver a hop to you, that it's all, Alex talks about being on brand for beer, and we want to be on brand with our hops too. So that's all the way down through the growers that we work really hard to deliver a high quality, consistent hop amongst all the different growers we have now throughout the Northwest and in Michigan. So it's quite a broad spectrum, and we want to just get everybody on the same page when we're growing and harvesting Colorado.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of the advantages of, there's a lot of talk amongst brewers and, proprietary varieties, public varieties, and they both have their advantages, right? And so we're a big public variety supporter. Alex would certainly attest to that. But one advantage that proprietary varieties have is that we can kind of really pull that quality in some of these metrics and rules through all the way through the growing part. And so it's many times with a proprietary variety are getting much kind of a more consistent product that's maybe tailored right to what a brewer is looking for.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, just to be a beer fan, be someone who's worked in the industry for this long and still kind of as a casual beer consumer, as John mentioned, you probably don't realize all the work, the passion, the kind of artistry that is going in here. And you guys are dealing with a harvest, with something that a lot of the factors here, you can't control, the weather and the wind and all that stuff that's going to kind of play into this. The kind of work you have to do to control what you can is, it's amazing. And it's so cool to hear just the process, the passion behind it, that it's every little thing from the size of the hop bed and the temperature and when the window to harvest, like all of this is being considered down to the inch. As I was reading, it's unreal, and you can taste it in this beer. It's pretty obvious. I mean, how I got the watermelon candy right away, but now I'm feeling the Concord grape. But it's just so cool. It's just so amazing to know that, like, all the work, all the people, all the thought that went into making this. It's something that I think all craft beer fans could think more about. And I'm glad we're talking about it today, because it's kind of blowing my mind, taking a step back and just imagining the experience you guys go through every day while trying not to get distracted by what it might smell like doing this. I'm sure it smells amazing.
Yeah.
It's actually very true from field to beer. El Dorado, it tracks really well. Not all hops do that, but you can definitely pull these things out. And then there's one, we get a ton of like pineapple juice in El Dorado. Here in our sensory. It's a sweet. I always get sweet candied lemon. It's typically one of my notes, because this beer has been in the can for about 30 days. We actually did a 30-day sensory on it today. And we found maybe the lemon has fallen out a tiny bit, but the pineapple is still very dominant, and the watermelon and the grape and berry.
Yeah. The thing that's transformational, that would be great, for craft beer drinkers to understand. One of the transformational thing that's happened in the last 8, 9, 10 years is that brewers and growers have got together, and that information exchange that's happening, and it's fluid now. We're all on the same page, and that information exchange is translating into these new flavors, exciting things, and things. So that's that part. It's just quiet behind the scenes things that maybe a lot of people don't know or understand, but this, technology in modern society has allowed this, just like we're doing today. We're talking on Zoom, and we're doing this, right? And so that ability of us two to connect and do this has allowed
the information gap between brewers and growers is closed. And for a long time, during harvest, it was like this quiet little thing that would go on, and we kind of like say, hey, harvest starting, and now it's over. And so now it's really has been transformed in the last 10 years when, we have brew schools going on. We have, so many brewers coming on the farm. And that really is, I think, what launched El Dorado 10 years ago, too, was having brewers come out, learning about it from the dealers, understanding who we are, our commitment to being farmers. And I always was impressed and with that same commitment that farmers have to farming is the same commitment brewers have to brewing. And it was this, I sleep, drink, eat, farming, eat, sleep, drink, brewing. and when those two, people got together, it was like, oh my gosh, you're just like us, and you care just as much as we do, and you want just the best for your beer. And so that connection is what really, I think, made the spark happen at the same time as craft was really taking off and El Dorado taking off. And our farm really, taking off as well. So Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I think anytime you're fortunate enough to call it a night and go out to eat instead of cook for yourself, and the server at the restaurant tells you, we got these tomatoes from a farm locally that the chef goes to visit. It's a common thing in the culinary world, and it's really great to hear about it in the brewing world, where we know Alex has a connection with you guys, and you're talking about how you're using the hop. This isn't going to tangent well, but I wanted to ask Alex, you said you've been brewing with this hop for almost 10 years. So when you're doing that, and this is your first single hopped El Dorado beer, have you come across, you don't have to reveal these if they're like trade secret, but for any of us that can't brew a beer in our own closets and maybe want to pretend that we're good at it, have you come across any kind of like good combinations where like El Dorado pairs with this hop or this style really well, that's kind of worked well for you?
I mean, it's a perfect IPA hop, right? We don't have to dance around that fact. It goes incredibly well in every kind of hoppy beer. We use it in our flagship beer here. It's a West Coast IPA called Expatriate. And I combine it with Simcoe and Mosaic, two very aggressive hops. But the El Dorado stands on its own in it. And I like to talk about how El Dorado tends to like fill in all the gaps. With certain hops, it does have a tendency to balance things out, and it has this sweetness that I think kind of blankets the entire experience of the hop side of a beer. Because you can drink a single hop Mosaic beer and it smells great, but it's too much, right? There's no nuance to it. There's no balance to it. You can't call it beautiful. You kind of call it aggressive. But we tend to use El Dorado in a lot of beers when we know we want this like sweet fruit characteristic. And when I say it like fills in the gaps of a lot of other hop varieties, it certainly does that. And I haven't really found a hop that it doesn't work with. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, I was going to say maybe I wouldn't pair with EKG, but that could work really well in a British beer where you're looking for a little bit of fruitiness in addition to like the herbaceous quality of the EKG. But it plays well with all hops.
If you're brewing it, I'm drinking it. That's one thing I've learned so far. Eric and Shelley, when I'm growing, I can't keep a basil plant alive, but when my wife is planting her garden, she tells me, like the basil needs to be next to the zucchini. When you guys are planting your hops in your farm, which in my head is like the size of Willy Wonka's factory, but do you guys think about kind of what hops we can work on and grow and try and build and bring to the forefront that'll be a nice component to El Dorado? Do you guys think about how you're planning your farm that way, or is it totally different and I'm off course?
I don't know. We kind of, we're at our, our base level. We're economic creatures, and so we have to go where brewers lead us. And so, so we grow a lot of Citra on this farm, and we grow a lot of Mosaic on this farm, and as well, and we have great relationships with the buyer that buys that. And those are important varieties for us. And so I think a good way to classify CLS Farms, we are a true independent hop farm. And so a lot of the hop farms are aligned with different groups or different buyers or whatever. And we are a truly independent grower. So Alex can attest to that as well. So we like to play in all the camps and do, because at the end of the day, we want to do what's right for brewers. For us, it's all about the brewers. And so we have brewers that love our Citra and brewers that love our Mosaic, and they reflect it from those buyers. Yeah. And so, at the end of the day, we kind of follow those avenues, So I will say one cool thing about the hop industry is we are all fairly large farms, but every farm in this valley is a family farm.
Yeah, we're all families here. Yeah. Every farm in the Yakima Valley has a family connected to it. Our family, our neighbors down the street, we're in a small industry for sure that has many families that are cousins or generational farms. We have 3 daughters too, and so that's the CLS stands for their initials, and so it's important that still stays, in the forefront of all these farms.
Hop growers have there's no private equity in hop growing right now. I mean, it's all which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying, but it's all, these are family farms brewers are dealing with, and consumers should know that too as well. We're all slugging it out here.
We all have like soccer practices. We all still like take our kids, play, like to breweries, too. That was the other part about, when Dorado was released was, we brought our kids. They're very much a part of our core business here, and for the people that work with us too. And so, it's a small industry, but it's also has a lot of families involved that go back for generations.
I'm imagining one of your three daughters getting Merrick's and Alex brewing a beer for the wedding, and that sort of like community that you wouldn't expect to find if you worked at Xerox or some giant corporate company.
I mean, that's
Sorry, Xerox.
Yeah. So when we went down to brew this Dorado, it was me and my daughter Claire, who she's going to school right now. She's finishing college and grad school. And then Reed Lundgren, who's our production manager. And so we spent the whole day really just spending time in the brewery, learning, understanding. You just don't get that time with brewers and with farmers to take the time to really understand the process. And so she's been to our farm multiple occasions and has been super passionate. And so that was a really, I felt honored to be there.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us, because there are a lot of people listening that hopefully have learned at least one thing they can take away from this. Go find beer with Dorado hops in it.
Yeah.
That might be the easiest thing to take away from it. Or if you can get your hands on Dorado at the time of recording, it's only got 36 check-ins on Untappd, which makes it, I think, declaratively like a whale at this point. We'll see how many people get their hands on it as time evolves. Shut up, John. Thank you, Alex, Shelley, and Eric, so much for joining us on Drinking Socially today. It was enlightening to hear you guys talk about the passion and the soul that you put into your work on both ends of this beer. I want to ask you on the spot, are there any thoughts or suggestions or colloquialisms you want to leave everyone with that's listening to the show before we let you go on about your regular lives in soccer practice?
Yeah. I would say in these weird times, be kind to your bartenders.
Yes.
Yeah. And your tractor drivers.
With our drummers back from break. Good.
Yeah, I would say what I would say is that we've grown hops in times that were not really great, and we've grown hops in times that are much better. And what I would really like to thank is ultimately two groups. One is the consumers, because they have completely backed up this movement with buying craft beer and supporting that industry, and then also brewers like Alex as well, because it took a passion, it took consumer passion, and it took small brewer passion to overcome some of the obstacles in the beer market, and those obstacles have been overcome. And what I can say is it's been transformational, very important to the family farms in the Yakima Valley that grow hops, and it's made our life a lot more enjoyable.
I love it. That's amazing. That's right. Open another beer to that and say cheers to all you guys. Again, thank you so much for your time today, for sharing this amazing story of Dorado with us, for giving Alex amazing insights into brewing and how many hops per barrel we got here we're experiencing and more. I mean, this was so cool and so much fun. Thank you all for doing what you're doing. I mean, this is stories like this are, I think why people have one of the reasons people have a really easy time loving craft breweries, loving this whole entire industry, is that it's people with dreams, following them with their families and friends most of the time. And that's exciting. As John said, you don't find that everywhere. It's easy to forget about. So thank you for reminding us today of that you guys are doing every day. And we get to benefit from it by drinking this great beer. So cheers to you all. And thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Of course. And if you guys want to find out more, you can jump online. You can follow Three Weavers at Three Weavers on Instagram. You can find CLS Farms at CLS_farms on Instagram. Also, I would encourage you to jump on hoptalk.live. There are stories there from brewers. There are recipes from brewers that are making beers with El Dorado hops. If you're a brewer and you have a beer that features El Dorado, awesome. Drop the recipe on there. Let us check it out. Let home brewers try and make it in their garage or spill it all over their kitchen as it overflows on their stove, or all that fun home brewing stuff that happens in the beginning and sometimes to even more experienced home brewers. But please share it there. It's so cool as kind of Shelley and Eric and Alex and I were talking to hear that, to have them hear that, what their hops are doing, where they're going, the beers they're making. As you can imagine, it's pretty amazing. You can also jump on to clsfarms.com for more information. Harvest season obviously is coming up for them. I was on their Instagram today. The images are amazing. Taking the hops off the vines, all that stuff. It's unreal. And then YakimaValleyHops.com too. They actually have homebrew kits. So if you're starting out as a home brewer, don't know where to go, El Dorado, this sounds amazing. I love watermelon candy. I love Concord grapes. I love beer. Please help me make it in my house because I can't get El Dorado. Yakima Valley Hops got you covered there to start that journey. But again, this was so cool. I feel like I learned a ton. And really, I can't wait to hunt for more beers with El Dorado in them. And Eric and Shelley were kind of humble. Sierra Nevada's using this in their hazy little thing. Stone's Delicious IPA. Like, these are, obviously Three Weavers makes a whole beer with it. And then Expatriate, as Alex said, their flagship IPA features this hop. This is a big deal. This hop is, if you think of great craft breweries, they're playing around with El Dorado. So like I said, you can hopefully find it in some beer near you. And please do, if you haven't experienced this yet. It's amazing. And really, speaking of watermelon candy, they were kind enough to send us this. This is an air freshener that's watermelon flavored. So I may open this up. We don't have smell-o-vision yet, but I'm going to kind of pair this with the rest of El Dorado.
Please don't dunk it in the beer.
I won't dunk. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll save this and hide it in the car. So everyone's asking me why it smells like watermelon tomorrow. I think that's my plan.
It smells like you're working here.
That's right. I'll have a little bit of a laugh. If someone leave a box of Jolly Ranchers in the back or drop some Trick cereal, I would probably assume it would be Trick cereal over the place because that happens a lot of the time. But anyway, that was so cool. And really, it kind of makes me think more about the badge we're talking about, the Brewery Pioneer badge. So like I half joked, but now I kind of feel like I've challenged myself. So many breweries are using El Dorado. Keep an eye on my Untappd feed. I'll be trying to systematically move through a couple I haven't had yet. But let's talk a little bit about this badge for everybody at home, John, how they can earn it, whether they're chasing El Dorado beers or not. What's the nuts and bolts of this thing?
Yeah, this is one of those badges on Untappd that is a big badge. A lot of people have earned it. Currently, at the time of recording, we're at 1.9 million and change people that have unlocked this badge. And it's not hard. All you have to do is drink beer from different breweries. So, it's a challenge worth chasing. Obviously, when you get up to level 50, then you're talking about now it's starting to get hard because you can't drink Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, Sierra Nevada Torpedo. Sierra Nevada's already on the list. You need to find a new brewery. And for that, I think it's a great badge to feature on this interview special guest episode where we're talking about the El Dorado hop, which is available in many different great beers, as Harrison alluded to, and Three Weavers showing us what you can do if you just cram a bunch of it into a beer. So some of the most popular beers that people use to unlock this badge in the first instance are, as you may expect, on Untappd. You just started using it. You just started checking in. You're kind of new to craft beer. So you'll see a lot of early unlocks featuring Heineken and Guinness. They're prolific across the beer community. Lagunitas IPA helps a lot of people earn this badge for the first time. But that also blocks every other Lagunitas beer from helping you level it up. That's why you need to go out and you need to source Stone Delicious, which is a magical, amazing beer. You need to find beers from Three Weavers and from Brooklyn and just keep spreading, go down the grocery store aisle. I think for badges, as far as we've reviewed on the podcast, this is probably one of my best. I anticipate maxing it out soon. I am currently at level 95 on this badge, which is somewhere around 1 million different breweries. I'm not very good at math, but we'll say 95 times 5, carry the 1, somewhere in the millions. Big thanks to Graft Cider for helping me get this far. That was my last level up, was a cider from Graft. And honestly, thinking about it, Harrison, could you imagine a world where cideries and meaderies start putting El Dorado in there, maybe as like a dry hop at the end?
It's probably already happening. I feel like every time we have what we think is a new idea, Superstition Meadery or some Graft has done it already. So yes, I can. And perhaps we already live in that world. We just haven't discovered that corner of the map yet, as it were. And unsurprisingly, John, you're beating me again at this badge. Although I will say I'm not too far behind. So I'm sitting at level 72. And actually, most recently, Bubba's Brew IPA from Bellbreaker, who we had on 2 episodes ago. That was amazing to just hear their history, their story, as well as talk with Mike from Ales for ALS. That was the most recent beer that I had that helped me level up this badge pretty recently. But again, as John said, you're discovering new beers from new breweries. It's a Brewery Pioneer badge. That's the whole point, is you discovering more things, more new beers from breweries you haven't had a beer from yet. You're going to be able to tick this thing along. So in some way, it really kind of follows your Untappd journey, where if you want to see how many different breweries have I had a beer from, check in your Brewery Pioneer badge. Look at what your stats at right now. I'm at 360 different breweries, which is not too bad. Almost one a day for a year or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not cheaper than
not $1.5 million.
Them all. It's I mean, it's nowhere near my million or so, but I like that part. Good use case for this badge, Harrison. How many breweries? I've never been to Estonia, but I've drank beer from Estonia, so that helps me level up this badge, and also helps me want to go to Estonia because Tallinn looks amazing. I know. Speaking of beers we've drank, Harrison, it's about that time. It's been a long time. It's been a week since we released an episode. Yes. What was the best beer you had?
Well, this one I anticipate is going to make you a little jealous, but not for long because we can get it still. So I enjoyed Eastern Carolina Classic from Casita Brewing Company. Guys we love. They've made great beer for years. They used to be gypsy brewers. No longer. They have kind of sit-down roots in Wilson, North Carolina, not too far away from us. But Eastern Carolina Classic is actually a cream ale. And it blew me away. I love that style. I know you do too. It's in most of your blood is actually cream ale, being from Buffalo.
The Genesee River, technically.
That's right. It's just, there's no water in that river. It's just Jenny cream ale, and it always will be. Don't ask where it comes from. It's magic. But it blew me away. And that's, you may be thinking cream ale blew you away. No, that's it. I mean, when you hit the nail on your head, it doesn't matter what kind of nail it is. Like, you nailed it. I think Yogi Berra said that.
It sounds like it,
yeah. Somebody, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, quoting Wayne Gretzky. Doesn't matter. Not important. But I wished it came in 15-pack cans. Like, it was so good. It was so crisp. It was clean. I gulped it down instantly and thought of you instantly and tagged you in my check-in because I knew you'd love it, being from Buffalo and having, again, such a in your genes, the cream ale itself. So really loved it. What about you, John? What's your best beer of the week?
Now I want to go find this Casita cream ale, but for me, the first beer that comes to mind is called I Have Promises to Keep. And it sounds like a burial beer, right? Like it sounds like a Robert Frost poem. This beer is from Treehouse, and preface, I brewed a beer with my wife. It's like a fun project where we both tried to brew this beer together, both love beer. And I think her review was, you've got a lot of work to do. And so, okay, opportunity, critical feedback. I'm all about that. And then you've got Nathan Lanier at Treehouse, and he brewed a good beer to celebrate his wife and their marriage, hence the name I Have Promises to Keep. But he shared it with all of us, or anyone that's fortunate enough to live nearby Treehouse in Mass, or if you're friends with Mark, who makes the New England Patriots seem less bad because he's an incredibly generous friend.
He is.
This beer was as good as you'd expect from Treehouse. It was made even better knowing that I got to kind of share in a little part of the Treehouse family. It was definitely better than my jalapeno pale ale that actually still reminds me of every time I get a little confident. Treehouse, I'm not trying to boast. Mark's a great friend. Treehouse is a great brewery. And more importantly, if there's any words of advice, they do live up to the hype.
Indeed.
But not to dissuade, breweries are good right now. This is a great time to be drinking. No matter where you live, the breweries near you are making good beer. And outside of that very formidable David Attenborough-esque advice, I want to say thanks again to Shelley and Eric from CLS. Make sure you're following them on Instagram, especially now coming up on the harvest time. Check out, all the things that they're doing. And Alex from Three Weavers, she's been brewing with El Dorado for 10 years. The beer garden at their tasting room in Inglewood, California, just recently expanded their hours, so you can go there late after work. They're open till 10. Food trucks there. Grab some El Dorado before it's gone. And you live in California. What is it? 70 degrees and sunny all hours of the day. If you haven't been to Three Weavers in a while, go listen to this podcast episode and remember that Alex is cool as hell. So go pay her a visit and drink some of her beer, and follow Untappd, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, PlayStation, Xbox, through the Publishers Clearinghouse mail. Wherever you mention Untappd, you'll find some friends. What's coming up next week, Harrison?
Next week, the future. I could say who knows, and I'd be mostly right, but I feel the year of the lager calling to me with something crisp. Do you feel that too, John?
Oh, it's yelling. It's screaming for the crisp lager. I feel this, Harrison, and I'm excited to rendezvous with you in 7 days.
Until next time, cheers!